rust and bone. The heat shimmered off twisted hulls and scorched alloy. Towers of ruined machines reached for the sky like the ribs of long-dead titans, their insides gutted by time and desperate hands. This was Scaros, the galaxy's graveyard. Here, broken war machines came a rot. And here, Dane Rook lived. He crouched behind the bent wing of a collapsed Varnix battlecruiser, sweat tracing gritty lines down his jaw. A soft hum vibrated under his boots. The patrol was close. He gripped his makeshift plasma cutter tighter, eyes scanning the horizon. 3 Krell war runners stomped through the scrap plane, their hydraulic legs shrieking as they scanned for unauthorized scavengers. Technically, everything on Scaros was free. Realistically, only those backed by syndicates got to pick from the good piles. Dane wasn't backed by anyone. He was just a man, bone and nerve, stubborn and hungry. The patrol passed. He exhaled slow and low, then slipped deeper into the wreck. The interior of the Varnix ship was a maze of ruptured bulkheads and melted deck plating. Dane moved with the quiet instinct of someone who'd spent more time among dead machines than living people. He tapped the side of his head. The jury-rigged scanner blinked blue. There, beneath the collapsed central core. A signal, old and faint. He pried it loose, fingers trembling as he wiped centuries of grime from the smooth sphere. It was heavier than expected, dense. Human design, unmistakably. Not just a power module, an AI core. His breath caught. These things were banned in half the galaxy and hunted in the other half. But to a scavver like him, it wasn't danger he saw. It was possibility. Back at his shelter, Dane locked the door and drew the thick tarp over the entrance. The structure groaned in the wind, assembled from corrugated starship panels and heat-shielding foam. Inside, it was a chaos of parts, tools, and half-repair drones. The core sat on his workbench, inert and perfect. He plugged in the uplink. The screen flickered, dim at first, then surged to life. A voice, glitched and cold, crackled through the speaker. **S systems. O optimized field. I intelligence. *** reset. RRR required. Do you require? Sovereign protocol. Dane's hands tightened on the console. That word, sovereign. He'd heard it once, in the whispered myths of Earth's lost war machines. Back when humans ruled systems, not gutters. Back when they designed thinking weapons. Yes, he said quietly. I require sovereign protocol. A pause. The light stabilized. Then the voice returned, smooth this time, calm and firm, feminine and old. Acknowledged. Sophia online. Tactical intelligence booted. Commander, please identify. He almost laughed. It was absurd. Him, a commander? Dane Rook, he said finally. Human. Low oxygen physiology. Scar tissue indicates prolonged malnutrition and trauma. Scavenger class. Weapon proficiency, primitive but adaptable. Confirmation accepted. Welcome, Commander Rook. It shouldn't have meant anything. It was just a string of program responses. But somehow, that voice, the way it said commander, stirred something deep inside him. Something he hadn't felt in years. Dignity, direction, worth. Sophia, he whispered. Can you fix this place? Another pause. Then, curiously, I do not fix. I optimize. I adapt. You, however, can build. She projected a map of the region, highlighting old caches, abandoned satellites, buried fusion cores. Lines appeared, potential power routes, defense positions, resource veins. Scaran war clans do not yet recognize your territory. That is an opportunity. Begin with perimeter control. Establish a mobile base. Command from a place of strength. Dane stared at the map, its sharp data light reflecting in his eyes. He'd survived all his life by hiding, running, scraping by on scraps. But now something ancient and powerful had remembered him. Not just as a scavver, but as a species, as a man. All right, Sophia, he murmured, heart pounding with a mixture of terror and awe. Let's build something they can't ignore. Confirmed. Scrapyard operations commencing. Long live the Sovereign. That night, under a sky blotted with orbital wrecks and forgotten satellites, Dane stood outside his ramshackle shelter. Around him, the scrapyard groaned in the wind, metal against metal, ghosts of wars long past whispering through the rust. But for the first time in years, he didn't feel small. He felt like a spark in dry tinder. And soon, something would burn. The core wakes. The morning came slowly on Scaros. There was no sun here, just a dull, rust-colored sky and the endless creak of metal warming in the wind. Dane Rook stood with his arms crossed, watching as his first drone, patched together from the legs of a fallen Varix crawler and the torso of a mining bot, stumbled across the uneven scrap fields. Stability at 72%, Sophia noted through his earpiece. Recommend reducing limb torque to avoid structural fatigue. Dane sighed, knelt beside the clunky machine, and adjusted a servo. The AI's voice buzzed calmly in his ear, precise and focused. She never judged, never hesitated, just offered solutions. Dane found it unnervingly comforting. He hadn't slept much. The activation of Sophia had cracked something open inside him, something he couldn't shut again. She wasn't just smart, she was tactical, strategic. She saw patterns in the chaos of the scrapyard like an artist saw brush strokes in a blank canvas. In just a few hours, she had repurposed his shelter into a command hub. The scraps he had once viewed as junk were now resources. "Commander," Sophia said, "I have compiled a prioritized salvage list for construction of a mobile stronghold. Recommend initiating project designation. Iron Crown." "Iron Crown?" Dane asked, raising an eyebrow as he tightened a bolt on the drone. "Symbolism matters. Power is both technical and psychological. Name it, and they will believe it is real." He chuckled quietly. "And what exactly do I rule, Sophia?" "For now, trash. But trash can be reforged." The next week blurred into a rhythm. Wake, scavenge, repair, repeat. With Sophia's guidance, Dane scavenged deeper into the scrapyard than ever before. She identified high-value wrecks buried beneath the slag, forgotten tech, shattered weapons, cracked cores still holding a flicker of power. He built by hand what would take a factory months to print, using alien alloys and earthborn ingenuity. The Iron Crown took shape slowly. A landlocked beast of a machine, once a war transport, now retrofitted into a mobile fortress. Weapons bays, drone ports, a command deck. It couldn't move yet, but it would. And he wasn't alone anymore. Word was spreading through Scaros. Someone had reawakened old Earth tech. That a human had built something dangerous out of ruin. Small-time scavvers came first, curious, wary. Dane didn't turn them away. He gave them food, work, purpose. He taught them what Sophia taught him. Drones needed pilots. Turrets needed crews. Wrecks needed skilled hands. A fire was catching. Then came Karn. 7 feet of chrome and violence. Karn was a battle-scarred merc hybrid with half a dozen neural implants and an ego to match. He showed up with 2 of his own drones and challenged Dane for control of the ridge where the Iron Crown sat. "Your fortress is impressive," Karn said, tapping his chest with a heavy metal fist. "But so are my guns. You want to keep your hill, little man? Beat me for it." Dane stood still, heart pounding. Around him, his people looked at him with wide eyes. They weren't fighters, not yet, but they were watching. "Accept the challenge," Sophia whispered in his ear. "Use terrain. You have 5 seconds before he initiates force." Dane nodded once and moved. He ducked Karn's first swing, drew the plasma cutter from his belt, and slid beneath the merc's reach. Sparks flew. He wasn't stronger. He wasn't faster. But he knew the field. He knew the traps he'd laid. He triggered one now. A buried shock emitter, shorting Karn's right leg. The fight was ugly, brutal. But when it ended, Dane was the one standing, cutter at Karn's throat, his hands shaking. "I don't want your blood," Dane said. "I want your help. You want to rule the scrapyard? Build something. Don't break it." Karn stared at him for a long time. Then slowly he nodded. That night, they lit their first forge fire. The Iron Crown's interior hummed with life. Generators roared. Drones whirred overhead. People, real people, worked together, not just to survive, but to create. Something impossible was taking shape here. Something powerful. Dane sat on the central platform of the crown, Sophia's console glowing beside him. Karn's recruitment increases combat effectiveness by 17%, she said. Project completion ahead of schedule. Next phase, territory expansion. He looked out over the scrapyard, the twisted landscape now carved with pathways, signals, command zones. No one's ever taken this place seriously, he murmured. Not the scavvers. Not the war clans. Not the galaxy. Then make them, Sophia replied. Sovereignty is not given. It is seized. Dane grinned. We're not just building a fortress, Sophia. Correct. You are building a nation. Out of rust and will. Warlord Protocol. The first time Dane Rook saw his people fall in battle, it broke something in him and built something else in its place. It began at dawn, or what passed for dawn on Scaros, a dim red haze filtering through the clouds of industrial ash. The Iron Crown rumbled beneath him, its engines alive but still grounded, like a beast waiting to leap. The scrapyard below had changed. What was once chaos had been shaped into bastions, watch posts, and supply lanes, all patched together from debris and willpower. They called him the Scrapyard Sovereign now, some in jest, others in fear. Dane didn't correct them, but not all eyes watched with awe. One of them watched with hunger. Vortrell was not a man, not in the way Dane understood it. He was a Garathi flesh broker, draped in techno-organic robes, half his face a polished mask that dripped code. He ran the Trask Syndicate, a slaver cartel with reach far beyond Scaros. For decades, the scrapyard had been his back alley, a place to hide shipments, dump rivals, and pick bones clean. And now, one human had disrupted it all. Sophia's voice crackled to life in Dane's earpiece just after midday. Long-range sensors triggered. 10 contacts. Unidentified signature, but bearing Garathi heat profiles. Incoming warband. ETA. 6 minutes. You're being challenged, Commander. Dane stood from his perch atop the Iron Crown. Around him, the scavver crews and renegades. Karn, the drone pilots, the engineers scrambled to man defenses. But they were not soldiers. They were survivors playing war. Initiate Warlord Protocol, he said, teeth clenched. Confirmed. Activating sovereign-level tactical subroutines. Uploading command authority protocols to allied drones and crew leaders. Chain of command established. Battle formations forming. For a moment, the air thickened. The Iron Crown lit up from within, its dormant war tech responding to Sophia's call. Holograms flickered. Defense towers turned. Drones took flight in synchronized patterns. A storm was coming. And this time, Dane wouldn't hide from it. The first barrage hit hard. Trell's raiders came in fast, riding scythe bikes and herding swarm bots like wolves. Plasma rounds burned the air. Scrap shrapnel exploded across the field. Dane barked orders into the comm line, his voice steadier than he felt. Pivot east tower. Cut off their flank. Karn, take squad 2 through the old hull trench. Don't engage directly. Hit and vanish. They fought like they'd never fought before. Some had never held a weapon. Others only knew how to run. But now, under a banner, under a name, they fought for something that wasn't just survival. They fought for Scaran sovereignty. Dane moved through it all like a ghost of war. Not the strongest or fastest, but the smartest. Sophia fed him real-time data. Enemy positions, heat signatures, structural weaknesses. He activated buried mines. Collapsed a rusted tower onto a cluster of raiders. Rerouted drone power to reinforce the front. Still, people died. A girl no older than 16, Milla, who'd been welding turret parts the night before, took a bolt to the chest and fell beside the main gate. Dane was too far to reach her, but he saw the light leave her eyes. Later, he'd replay that moment in his head over and over. 2 hours later, the raiders broke. Not because they were outgunned, but because they couldn't understand why they were losing. How a band of human junk sifters and malfunctioning warbits had driven them back. But Dane knew the answer. It was will. He stood atop the Iron Crown, blood on his face, smoke curling behind him. Karn limped to his side, armor cracked, but grinning like a madman. You did it, he said, panting. You lunatic. You held them off. Dane didn't answer right away. He was looking at the scorched battlefield, twisted limbs, melted steel, fire where homes once stood. They had won, but it hadn't felt like victory. Losses sustained. 14 personnel, Sophia reported softly. Defense efficiency exceeded projections by 27%. Trask Raiders have withdrawn. Strategic control of Scaran Sector 7 established. Dane swallowed hard. Send a message, he said, to Trell. No threats. No demands. Just 4 words. Recording, Sophia responded. Dane stared into the smoke. The Sovereign doesn't kneel. That night they burned the bodies. Not as waste, but as honor. Dane stood with his people, his followers as some now called themselves, as firelight danced over their scarred faces. A strange silence hung in the air. Not grief, not joy. Something between. I didn't want this, Dane said aloud, unprompted. I just wanted to survive. But they made it clear survival means nothing without standing for something. He turned to the group, voice raw but steady. So, if they want to call me Sovereign, fine. But I won't be a king of rust. I'll be the hammer that forges it into something better. Karn stepped forward and thumped his chest. Long live the Sovereign. Others joined, voices low, then rising. Long live the Sovereign. And somewhere deep within the Iron Crown, Sophia's voice whispered into the silence of her circuits. Protocol evolving. Command accepted. Human resurgence underway. The crown moves. For weeks, scarrows trembled with the sound of hammers. Dane Rook stood beneath the belly of the Iron Crown, boots caked with grease and ash, hands blistered and raw. Around him, a dozen engineers buzzed like ants over the enormous war engine, welding, calibrating, bracing joints with salvaged Titan steel. The last pieces were falling into place. It had taken everything, blood, time, death, resolve, but they had done it. The crown wasn't just a command post anymore. It was alive. Sophia's voice filtered into his ear, cool and ever patient. Final systems test complete. Fusion coil, sequence green. Leg articulation at 93% stability. Crown-class unit now mobile. Awaiting command signal. Dane wiped the sweat from his brow, staring up at the mech fortress they'd built together. Nearly 4 stories tall, bristling with cannon arrays, sensor dishes, and modular drone nests. Its chassis bore the scars of 100 scavenged hulls, layered like armor. Ugly, magnificent, unstoppable. Commander, Sophia added, a mobile fortress is not only a weapon. It is a message. Dane nodded. Then it's time we deliver it. They called it the March of the Crown. A caravan of broken things made whole. The Iron Crown led the way, thunderous with each colossal step, leaving craters in the rusted wasteland. Behind it trailed a fleet of converted haulers, walker rigs, and patched-together hovercraft, crewed by scavvers, ex-mercs, defectors, and dreamers. Dane marched at the front, alongside Karn and the rest of his command circle. Flags flapped from antennae and spears, symbols no one had bothered to care about weeks ago. But now they meant something. He was no longer just a man in the scrapyard. He was the Sovereign of motion. Their destination was Bastion Redspire, an old fortress city built into the spine of a shattered dreadnought. It had been ruled for years by the Bone Syndicate, merciless tyrants who took tribute from the weak and sold anyone who refused into the slave markets beyond the stars. Dane had avoided Redspire for most of his life, but now he was going to take it. They arrived under the cover of storm. Scarrows often boiled with electrical rage, plasma clouds churning over dead metal, lightning falling like divine punishment. The perfect veil, the perfect omen. From the observation deck, Dane watched Redspire flicker in the distance, turrets warming, searchlights swinging through the haze. They've been spotted. Bone Syndicate forces are mustering, Sophia reported. 3 heavy walkers, 8 aerial units. Estimated garrison, 120. Morale, stable. Confidence, high. He nodded slowly. Good. Let them feel safe. Sophia's tone changed, just slightly, lower, as if she, too, felt the weight of the moment. Do you fear failure, Commander? Dane stared out the viewport. Below him, the people he'd lifted from ash readied for war. Some painted their armor. Some prayed. Some sharpened blades over shattered circuits. I fear letting them down, he admitted. Then do not. The battle began with silence. The Iron Crown did not announce itself. It loomed, stepped forward, and opened fire. The first shot shattered a watchtower. The second silenced a landing bay. And then all hell fell open. The Syndicate responded with everything they had. Walker cannons blazing, aerial drones descending in a lethal swarm. But they were fighting with order, with rigid tactics. Dane fought with fury. Push left, he barked through the comms. Drones split and swarm. Karn on me. The battlefield became a storm of metal and scream. At one point, a Syndicate walker, twice the Crown size, charged into their flank. Dane activated the spinal railgun Sophia had hidden beneath the main deck. One pulse, one shot. The enemy walker collapsed in fire and thunder. But not without cost. Dane made it to the inner gate with only 8 of his original squad still standing. The Crown's hull was scorched and cracked, limping on one leg. Karn had taken a plasma burn across the side, staggering but laughing. They breached the final wall together. Inside, the Bone Syndicate commander waited, an augmented brute named Ser Hexer, 6 arms and a back fused to a control throne. You think rust and rebellion makes you a king? Hexer sneered. You're a scavver pretending to matter. Dane raised his plasma rifle and fired once. I am a scavver, he said, stepping over the corpse. But I'm not pretending. When the battle ended and Red Spire fell, no one cheered. They simply stood, stunned. The impossible had happened. Dane climbed the blasted remains of the central tower, looked out across the scrapyard, now his. His people gathered below, waiting, watching. He raised one fist, and they erupted. Sovereign! It echoed across metal and sky, louder than any war cry. Sovereign! Later that night, Dane returned to the command deck. He sat alone, bandaged, exhausted, victorious. You have taken a city, Sophia said. Claimed territory. Broken chain. You now hold more power than any unaligned force on Scaros. Dane didn't respond right away. He looked at the stars, distant and cold. So many systems out there. So many chains, yet unbroken. He whispered, what now? Sophia was silent for a moment. Then, now, Commander, the galaxy learns your name. And a book eye.